So Donald Trump is not the only one getting good news from the new CNN ORC poll. Hillary Clinton is firmly in the lead among Iowa Democrats with 50%. Challenger Bernie Sanders is second with 31%. But that poll was taken before Clinton agreed to turn over her private email server and a thumb drive with some of those files. And today, Donald Trump called the situation, and this is a quote, criminal. Is he right? And is her campaign facing trouble? Joining me now via Skype, Alan Dershowitz. His latest book is The Case Against the Iran Deal. Alan, thank you. You know, Donald Trump says it's a crime. The Intelligence Community Inspector General says at least 5 emails from Hillary Clinton's server contained classified information. Did she break the law?
Absolutely not. Trump ought to go back to school and learn about what the Constitution says. It has an ex post facto provision. It says that nobody can be convicted of a crime that wasn't a crime at the time the actions occurred. And it's just undisputed that at the time Hillary Clinton used her private email, that was permissible under the rules of the State Department, and that none of the emails were marked classified. The fact that the State Department may change its rules now, which it probably should, and the fact that some of the information has been classified after the fact are totally irrelevant to criminal charges. So let's stop talking about criminal issues. There are none on the table. Let's talk about how to make sure this doesn't happen in the future. And that's what the Justice investigation is all about. How to make sure that future secretaries of state and future classifiers get it right. This time, you can't blame Hillary Clinton for that. There's just nothing criminal about what she did.
I know you'd like to move on and you'd like to say, let's look into how to make this not happen again. But, Alan, it is a federal offense for someone to knowingly store classified information at an unauthorized location if there's classified information in there. Shouldn't she have known that?
No, of course not, because it wasn't classified. Anything that was marked classified, she has said she read on hard copy in her office and used secure methods to communicate that. Everything she had on her server, everything she had on her email, as far as I have read, was marked unclassified.
But how do you know that unless you see the trail, unless you see the electronic trail? How would you know that?
That's why it's being produced, obviously. But that's what she has said, and nobody has come up with any single email that was marked classified at the time she had it on her server. And you can't just retroactively create crimes out of innocent conduct that was innocent at the time that it was engaged in. That's a fundamental provision of our Constitution. It's not even in the Bill of Rights. It's in the body of the Constitution that no ex post facto laws can be enacted by Congress, and you can't punish people for conduct that was not criminal at the time it occurred.
But obviously a lot of people, or at least some people, Alan, think it's not so innocent because they're asking her to turn the information over now. As I think you're alluding to, and many others in the Democratic Party are saying that it's a witch hunt. So if this is a witch hunt, why didn't Hillary Clinton turn her server over to the government earlier? Why not be more transparent from the beginning? Why wait 5 months to do this?
I think she's the only Secretary of State. Remember, this has happened to, I think, the last 3 Secretaries of State. She's the first one to turn all this material over. And I think, look, there may be material in there that is private. And in fact, some of the emails have been returned to her as private and not governmental, but she's now turned them all over. There's an opportunity to review every single one of them. You'll see that none of them have been marked classified, and we should just put an end to this discussion of, are there criminal actions involved? There are no criminal actions. There's an investigation by the Justice Department, but its goal is to make sure this doesn't happen in the future. We have to look forward, not backward. We can look backward to learn lessons, but you cannot charge anybody, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, with a crime if what they did was not illegal at the time they did it. That's the crucial issue.
But you have to admit that this does play into this whole issue about concerns over her trustworthiness. I mean, this new CNN ORC Iowa poll asked likely Democratic caucus goers which Democratic candidate is most honest and trustworthy. Sanders was ahead of Hillary Clinton, 35-28. Do you think that's going to be a lingering problem for her campaign?
No, I don't think so. Look, we don't know Sanders very well. We know the Clintons so well. We've been watching them for how many years now. Sanders is a terrific guy. Grew up in Brooklyn, went to my college, Brooklyn College. I like him very much. And he's a very trustworthy guy because he hasn't had much exposure and much controversy around him. Hillary Clinton, of course, has been in every position. She's been the First Lady, controversial. She's been the Secretary of State. She's been a senator. Of course there's going to be more trust issues regarding somebody who's been in the public light for so long and has been involved in such a controversial relationship with her controversial husband. But I think in the end, just like Bill Clinton had some issues of trust, but was very popular and was reelected and is probably one of the most popular people in the world today, could win elections in practically any country in the world. I don't think this is going to hurt Hillary Clinton.
Alan Dershowitz, always appreciate it. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.